Australia, like many other Western developed economies, is in the midst of a nursing shortage that is expected to intensify as the baby boomers age, increasing the ageing population and the nursing care required. Whilst one answer is to recruit more nurses, the obvious answer is really in the retention of nurses. There's been an enormous amount of research undertaken in this area, and the evidence talks towards nurses being stressed, dissatisfied in their work, and in increasing numbers they're withdrawing from the workplace and casualising their employment. So why do nurses stay or go? I refer you to the slide. It's probably not that much different to a lot of other industries, but I would also like to sort of make a comment that if you read Michael's article in the Sunday Times a few weeks ago, he did talk about the fact that hospitals are now focusing more on human resource practice and the benefits that keep nurses in the workplace. And I think that's probably the win for employees. It is within this environment I'd now like to talk to you more specifically about recruitment and retention at St John of God Hospital Murdoch and provide you with some practical examples of how we achieve why nurses say it's a great place to work. As a point of background, St John of God Hospital Murdoch is a 261-bed private hospital which is recognised as the premier private healthcare provider south of the river. Serving a population of 730,000, it is expected to grow by 9% over the next 5 years. It currently employs over 1,200 caregivers and has an annual turnover of $95 million. It's going to be quite a big week for me. Tomorrow we're actually celebrating the completion of our $31 million redevelopment, which has seen the addition of 70 beds, 2 operating theatres, a new education centre, a refurbished and renovated emergency department and some new support services. This will take us to be the 7th largest private hospital in Australia with 340 beds and 10 operating theatres. So it all sounds pretty exciting, but I haven't slept for months hoping that we're going to be able to achieve the staffing requirements to open and accommodate the new wards. And every time I hear on the news that they're going to be opening 200 winter beds or whatever, I keep thinking, let's get through winter so that hopefully that pool of people will be able to get back in and hopefully be able to attract to St John's Murdoch. All of our external benchmarking surveys and our internal perception mapping exercises strongly indicate that the majority of our caregivers think that St John of God Hospital is a great place to work. But what are those things that make them feel like that? Research strongly indicates that organisations with a strong sense of mission and values produce a working climate conducive to employee satisfaction and loyalty. Firstly, then, Murdoch is a values-based organisation and has a strong sense of mission. It espouses and measures itself against the values of hospitality, compassion, respect, justice and excellence. Everyone who joins the organisation is informed of these at orientation and is expected to bring them to life through their own actions. In fact, even at interview, we're looking for organisational fit. And as an interviewer, I will often ask the question, what values are important to you personally and how would you engage them in your work? That's just a small tip for those that ever come for a job at St John's. But the hospital also holds itself accountable to these standards so that it can be critiqued by those who work for it. We display the values for all to see. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. Got carried away. But we display the values for all to see, and we display them in the driveway. A director of mission is also employed as a visible witness to the importance of these values. The mission and values give the caregivers a sense that there's something more than just a job, and that they are part of it. Caregivers report that in a sense that their work taps into their own spirituality, even if they do not have strong religious convictions. Storytelling is also a very important factor that engenders pride and loyalty. Luckily, caregivers at Murdoch are part of an amazing one that begins with St John of God in Spain in the 16th century. This combined with the arrival of the sisters in Western Australia in 1895, who, bearing the St John of God name, endured great hardships and have built what is now an iconic organisation in this state and nationally. The story is repeated often through orientation, celebrations and caregiver development. It is a story that would not be difficult to be moved by. Importantly, caregivers are reminded that they are now part of an even more compelling and challenging chapter. The story is so powerful that there's a sense of pride in the past, but also the need to honour it in the future. The hardships that the sisters in developing the organisation dealt with in the early days, the challenge is now for us to maintain that. And for any organisation, I'd say that there's a story worth telling. Organisations that look beyond their everyday work also give employees a sense that their work is meaningful. St John of God Murdoch has a strong social outreach and advocacy program. As a not-for-profit organisation, it can easily direct parts of their hard work to support the needs of the marginalised. Caregivers at Murdoch know that their hard work supports a cervical screening program in Papua New Guinea, a child counsellor in Rockingham, a counselling service in Fremantle, a team of doctors and nurses in Somalia, and many other opportunities. 4 weeks ago, I was up in the Pilbara, and I went to Port Hedland and to Roebourne and spoke to the Pilbara Indigenous Women's Group and to the Aboriginal Medical Services to see how we could look to opportunities for our nursing services to be involved in the work that they do. The social outreach and advocacy focus combines beautifully with the story of St John of God to give it credence in the current times. Another recent example of our outward focus on the marginalised is the adoption of our Charity of the Year, Nelson Haven. Not only have various wards and departments responded enthusiastically to a dollar-for-dollar challenge from management, but they seem to be competing to outdo one another in fundraising. It's been quite an amazing thing to see happen. Each of the departments are challenging one another to come up with the best fundraising ideas. So there's been breakfasts and raffles and all of those types of things. But it's the team building that's been quite significant and was really an unexpected outcome of this initiative. Community is another factor which can make employees attracted to an organisation. The focus on the first value of hospitality has created a palpable sense of community. Despite its size, one can sense a feeling of belonging. Stories abound about caregivers feeling supported and cared for during times of personal challenge. New employees regularly report feeling welcomed and cared for, and caregivers participate often in fun events and sundowners. I was talking to a nurse last week who underwent orientation a few weeks ago, and Marg was telling me that when she came to orientation, she came as a stranger, but when she left, at the end of the day, she felt that she had a new group of friends, and she's since encouraged 3 others to join us. So I don't think I'll be on the Christmas card list from her previous employer. But it just goes to show the momentum of that feeling of hospitality and the way that people are very happy to bring new people on board. A mission support group made up of caregiver volunteers also works hard to promote the value through many activities. Caregivers have also, on their own initiative, developed a Murdoch Cares strategy to help look after fellow caregivers during times of trauma, and they have got a roster where they can provide meals and housekeeping support. So it's something that they've just developed on their own bat. But if that all sounds too serious, let me also assure you that they do like to play hard as well. And last Friday we had a derby lunch in the cafeteria, and obviously, you know, you've got some supporting the Dockers and some supporting the Eagles. So everybody arrives in their team colours. Everybody gives a gold coin donation to Nelson Haven, and there's streamers and quizzes and things. It just gives a great sense of camaraderie. To retain employees, an organisation must also strive to care for them and demonstrate that they are valued, and St John's does that in many ways. We've got a pastoral services team that ministers to both patients and caregivers alike. Free counselling is available anonymously through an outside organisation for caregivers and their families. There's a wellness program offering courses in personal development and recreation, and we've also got a new initiative called the Gifting Program, and that allows caregivers for a paid day of relaxation and self-reflection at our St John of God Healthcare Retreat, which is set in 5 hectares of gardens on the beach in Safety Bay, and that's been very well received by our caregivers. We've got scholarships, Employee of the Month and Year awards based on the values. We've got Quiet Achiever awards and many opportunities for professional development. Caregivers know that Murdoch is a place which aims to develop those that work there. In fact, we've actually tossed out our old performance appraisal tool and replaced it with a caregiver development plan. And whilst there's an opportunity to reflect on the previous year's achievements, the focus is really on the conversation to look at how we can develop and find opportunities for the caregiver. One of the best reward and recognition stories, though, this year has been the achievement of our nurses at the annual Nurses Registration Board Nursing Excellence Awards. 4 of our nurses were finalists, with 2, Wendy Blomberg and Joanne Upperton, winners in their respective categories of the Registered Nurse and Enrolled Nurse Metropolitan Acute Care Nurse of the Year. This was a great sense of celebration for the whole of the hospital. Our commitment to excellence, one of our core values, also engenders pride and helps with recruitment and retention. Because of the strong clinical leadership and a team approach to the continuous improvement, the hospital maintains a reputation to which nurses can be proud to be connected to. Murdoch is on a constant quality cycle, a strong clinical governance framework supported by policy and procedure, best practice and clinical research ensures patient outcomes are at the focus of our care. Retention is also about leadership, and I believe that people want to work for an achieving organisation. Maintaining this culture and balancing it with strong financial performance is a very challenging role. From a caregiver perspective, though, it is clear that they want leaders to understand what they do, listen to them, and be very visible in the workplace. And one of the ways that we've been able to achieve that is by myself and the Deputy Director of Nursing putting on our nursing uniforms and going back out into the workplace, which I can tell you was pretty scary after not having worked on the floor for 15 years. And when you're showering somebody when you're out of practice, you get pretty wet, I can tell you. But the physical environment of the workplace also can attract and retain employees, and all too often this is overlooked. Murdoch is set in beautiful gardens and with ponds and waterfalls, and the views from the rooms are beautiful. Call it feng shui or whatever you would like, but it would be the physical environment really has a strong influence on the way that we think and how we enjoy being at work. Our retention strategy has also been an integral part of our approach to recruitment. Using our sense of community and team approach, we've been able to engage the whole hospital in recruitment. We've established a working party which includes nurses from all levels and departments of the hospital to drive the strategy. In addition, we've asked all the nurses and other caregivers for their ideas, used photos of them, asked them for input into our advertising. We've sought good news stories for the local papers and celebrated recruitment both individually and as a team. I suppose given that the nursing shortage is a worldwide problem, the need to be innovative in our retention and recruitment practices will be a constant focus for us into the future. However, notwithstanding that, when I reflect on who we are and what we have achieved, I really should sleep better at night. But you will be particularly keen to know that we have been able to recruit enough nurses to meet our budgeted activity targets, at least for the first few months. And then, as I said, there's going to be an ongoing focus to that into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. As I'm sitting there listening to Robin speak, I'm thinking here's a person who is actually acting as a magnet and attracting people to the workplace. And also what's interesting is that the organisation not only has its values in writing, but also it has the behaviours that reflect those values in order to demonstrate those performance. Now, John Burt is the founder and co-director of Skidata. And John is highly regarded as an innovative and accomplished director and choreographer and an outstanding elite trainer. He is the founder and co-director of Skidata, the unique Western Australian circus company that combines extraordinary dance, martial arts and circus with awesome, inspiring lighting, illusion, computer animation, video, electronic sound and original music. Skidata has represented Australia for the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade Cultural Initiatives in India and also China. So, ladies and gentlemen, can you please make welcome John Burt.
Thanks, Greg. I'm very pleased to be here as the co-director of Skidata. It's becoming more and more my pleasure to be coming into contact with people from the business world and the corporate world. And I think this is a really exciting thing for an arts organisation. And the reason for this, I think, has been about 18 months ago, we made a decision. Either we're going to be a struggling little arts company waiting for arts funding and disappearing every time there wasn't any arts funding, or we were going to do something about it and make something quite unique here in Perth. And we had performed, we'd just come back from Shanghai, and we'd put a show together for the Department of Trade and Foreign Affairs, which was a dance and circus show. Our dancers were from Perth, but our aerialists were from the East Coast. And they're very expensive. They flew in a couple of weeks before the show. We fitted them into the show, and then they flew off again. And we thought, this is ridiculous. We think we can make better quality work here, right here in Perth. So we decided to set about doing that. And one of the things we decided to do was to look at where were we going to recruit the type of performer we needed. And after a bit of research and looking around, we looked at the gymnastics community. And you'll be aware that we have some of the best gymnasts in Australia and in the world right here in Perth. In fact, Alana Slater just retired last week at the ripe old age of 21. And she actually is our highest ranking gymnast. She was actually the 6th highest ranked gymnast in the world in her peak a few years ago. And the WA Institute of Sport at Challenge Stadium has a fantastic program, and we're turning out the most amazing gymnasts, world-class gymnasts. Also, another little known fact, a few days ago, someone that trains in my gym is the world champion of sports aerobics, just won the world championship sports aerobics at the age of, I think he's about 17. So right here in Perth, we keep calling ourselves a backwater, but actually we have the most amazing talent here. And I think it's a cultural problem that we keep perceiving ourselves as not being able to produce the goods right here in Perth. So we thought, well, let's give it a year and put together a partnership. And one of the first partnerships we put together was one with Gymnastics WA. And I'm just going to run these stills while I'm talking. Some of these people you see here are gymnasts, ex-gymnasts. who, after, about the age of 16, 17, they decide they don't really want to compete in the competitive environment, constantly, scoring points, getting deducted 2 points because they fell off the beam the wrong way or something like that. And they want to take all the investment of time and energy and the amazing skills they have and do something else with it. Well, we decided we could provide that pathway. So already we had a skilled base to work from. And we went to Gymnastics WA and we said, look, we think we could really produce a really good partnership here. And would you be interested? Not only did they say they were interested, but we train at their base. We have a studio where we do our aerial work at their base. We have storage space, we have office space, we can use the photocopier. These are amazing infrastructure elements for any arts organisation. We really don't want to be spending our money on massive rents, paying administration staff and things like that. We want to put our money on our